Good morning, and welcome to the Big Buzz Breakfast Club. We are excited to be together today to talk about boosting your brand and elevating your nonprofit missions through strategic marketing. My name is Melissa Legowski. I'm the founder and owner of Big Buzz Idea Group, and we are so glad that you've decided to join us today. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be shared with all of our registration participants so that you will be able to refer back to it and collect this valuable information as you need to. Please be sure to answer our poll questions, which will go live momentarily, and put any questions in the Q&A box today, and questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. We have a lot of great information. Some of the questions might be answered organically, and then we will definitely cover anything at the end that has not been covered yet. So put your questions in there while they're fresh in your mind. And then if you need to manage the closed captioning, please do click the button at the bottom of your screen so that you may turn the captions on or off as you desire. For those of you who don't know about Big Buzz Idea Group, we know that many nonprofits lack the time, staff, skills, and funding that they need to thrive. Big Buzz Idea Group fills gaps in management, marketing, and event services so you can focus on the big picture and position your organization to thrive. We are excited. If you have not heard about our Run Your Nonprofit Like a Boss summit, we will be running it again this fall due to popular demand. And so we hope that you might join us there. It is an in-person event that will be held at the Oak Park Library on Thursday, November 7th. And we cover all of the core basics about how to run your organization like a business. It's all the stuff that I wish someone had taught me the first time I was an executive director. So we will cover core operations like strategy, finances, HR, culture, and leadership development. You can register at bigbuzzideagroup.com. Also, we have just brought back the Power Cell. Power Cells are masterminds that give nonprofit executives a confidential, just private space to be able to really deep dive and kind of go into more discussions with people that are your fellow leaders in the nonprofit space so that you can continue to level up as a leader. They are really dynamic and they generally do run for a full year at a time. It is the same small group of 3 to 4 people who just get to know each other and continue to go deeper and deeper on how to more effectively run your organization. If you'd like more information, you can email me as noted on the slide. But now, the reason we're here. Kat, if you will go ahead and put up the polls for me, please. We are very excited to welcome Amanda Lovell from our very own Big Buzz Idea Group team, who does a lot of the marketing, digital marketing in particular, for many of our clients. We also have special guest Murphy Monroe, who is the executive director at the Actors Gymnasium, and he will give us a little bit more information about his role in marketing soon. And then Dave Zabel, director of marketing at the Old Town School of Folk Music. We've been fortunate enough to know and work with Dave for about 13 years now, so super excited to have him on this panel and really excited about today's discussion. All right, great. It looks like the answers are coming in. We definitely seem to have some small teams in the house, not uncommon at all. And the budgets range a little bit, which is very nice. We'll just give that another second. But meanwhile, I'd like to invite our panelists to tell just a little bit more about themselves, their role in the nonprofit marketing world, and the types of marketing that you're currently using at your organization. Amanda, we're going to start with you today.
Hi, my name is Amanda Lovell. I have about 10 years in nonprofit management and digital marketing. I've been with Big Buzz for about 2.5 years now, where I assist both Big Buzz and our clients with social media, email campaigns, design, content writing, little bit of everything. And prior to my time at Big Buzz, I was the fraternal director at a 501(c)(8) fraternal benefit society, where I was there for 7 years. As a fraternal director, I handled the membership and marketing. We were ethnic in nature with our members predominantly of Czechoslovak descent. We offered life insurance and annuities, which is how you became a member. So it was a very unique type of nonprofit organization. So my background's pretty unique, and I'm excited and honored to be speaking today.
Thank you. Murphy?
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Murphy Monroe. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm really pleased to be here. I have a long background in marketing within education and higher education, have led the branding development and marketing teams for several major universities, including Columbia College Chicago within the city of Chicago for over a dozen years. I also am currently the executive director of an amazing organization called the Actors Gymnasium. We are in Evanston, Illinois, and we are a circus, school, and theater company. There are only 9 professional circus schools in North America, and really proud to be one of them. We teach over 1,000 students a year, and we help other places produce circus theater, which means we have a lot of things to sell, and actively involved daily with a very small team now in marketing and selling, and looking forward to talking about it today.
Great. Dave?
Morning. My name is Dave Zabel. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Old Town School of Folk Music. I also help produce the Square Roots Festival along with Big Buzz, and I sit on the board of the Chamber of Commerce at Lincoln Square, Ravenswood Chamber of Commerce. So my background, aside from this job that I'm doing now, has been mostly with startups, sort of in the creative direction, graphic design, and packaging design worlds. A little bit about Old Town School. We have about 3,500 to 4,000 students every 8 weeks, and we do about 400 concerts a year, plus other events, workshops, obviously festivals. So we're pretty large in that kind of community, and we focus mostly on the standard marketing pieces that you would think about. So we're really strong in traditional marketing. We do tons of digital, but we also spend a lot of our budget on out of home radio and a little bit of television too. So we've got some experience doing a little bit of everything. So I'm happy to be here to talk about it today.
Yeah, that is absolutely one of the main reasons I wanted you to participate. I know that you guys are always kind of utilizing traditional channels, but trying new things and kind of staying abreast of stuff. So thank you. I'd like to have you each tell us a little bit about marketing strategy and, why it is so important overall. I know, I'm a former executive director myself before I started Big Buzz, and, you wear so many hats, and nobody taught me how to do marketing, and I had to just figure it out. And I think strategy sometimes is the one thing that gets overlooked, because small organizations, especially, people just jump in and start doing. So I definitely wanted to spend some time today just talking about briefly about strategy and why you think it's important. And this time, Murphy, I'll start with you.
Great. So within nonprofits, strategy is really the most essential thing, because whatever your nonprofit is doing, you have some community that you are seeking to serve, or something you are making available to a community in some way. And to truly meet that mission as best you can, you need to make sure that the people who are going to benefit most from what it is you are offering, doing, serving, the people who are most able to benefit are the ones who are most able to reach you. So not only are you doing the marketing you need to bring in the amount of people or the amount of sales you need to achieve your budget, but you're actually doing it in such a way as a nonprofit that ensures you are getting the right people as much as possible. And that just can't be done without a really lot of thought into how we're doing it, why we're doing it and a really specific strategy that everyone in the organization is brought in on. Just super critical, of course.
Excellent. Dave?
I think he's captured pretty much everything there. And, looking sort of at like what the high level of budgets were, I think the highest was like 10 to 30K. You have to make sure you're spending that money in like a healthy and smart way. So I think the best way to put that together is to have a solid marketing plan and to just spend a little bit of extra energy making sure that you're putting that money in the right place. It's easy in this business to kind of dump money down a well without being real thoughtful about like what are you getting for that? What's your return on investment and some of those pieces too. So I think it's always good just to have a little bit of a plan just so you can evaluate exactly how things are working for you. That's really, I think we've talked about this a bit as panelists. We're going to come back to that a lot, which is like, trying something, evaluating whether it worked, testing, and then going back and doing it again and again, and just kind of that iteration in your process just makes you more effective at this type of work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Amanda, your thoughts on strategy? And the other thing I think too, multiple audiences, right? I think sometimes in our marketing we also serve a few different audiences, and so also thinking about how to reach them all. But Amanda, what are your thoughts on strategy?
Yeah, I think Murphy and Dave did a great job of outlining that. For me, since I specifically work in the digital side for the most part, Murphy mentioned that the the members or the audience should reach the organization, but I see it as how do we reach them? Because right now with digital in the digital space, we seem to be fighting with algorithms and everybody just has low attention spans or they're just getting bombarded with all kinds of content. Our emails are so inundated, our social feeds. So I see it as how do we use a good strategy to um, reach out to either existing or potential members and like we've talked about before with limited budgets too. So having a good solid strategy plan in place and then not be afraid to try new things and just kind of always have your eye on the ball of what's coming up in digital marketing as it is.
Yeah, I think that that's so important. And I do, I think about the pillars. I mean, I think about the fact that so much of it is attracting people to your organization, but it's for participation, membership, and or donors, right? Like to also be able to solicit new funding partners. And also many organizations are looking for volunteers, and they're all very different strategies and different messaging and how you integrate them and the balances. So it's going to be exciting. We'll continue to talk about so much of this today. But can any of you give, a couple of an example or two about a successful marketing campaign that had significant impact on your nonprofit organization or for you, Amanda, one of your clients?
Sure. So, one of my clients, they are a nonprofit on the far north side of Chicago, and their mission is to amplify the local businesses in the area. And kind of a case study is what we did to help them have a successful marketing campaign is we used video and we used storytelling. So at Big Buzz, as a consultant and as a doer, I would show up to these local businesses and, grab just B-roll of the shop, or I would have interviews with the shop owners, and we would use those and create aesthetically pleasing videos that were only, for social, they're 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 30 seconds. And it really, it was authentic and it was emotionally driven content. And it really resonated with the community and it tied back to the client themselves and the work that they wanted to do to promote these shops and business owners.
Excellent. Video, it's never been easier to do it than today. I mean, I'm so impressed with how
Totally.
easy it is and how what a game changer it is. And I think not enough organizations, because people still are very shy about a camera, but man, play around with it, right? Like huge opportunity. So Who else? Any successful campaigns that you want to share?
When I got to the Actors Gymnasium, although I had kind of a background in circus, I came to quickly realize that lots of people within the organization had different conceptions of what circus is. As we all know, circus has changed dramatically over time. And so quickly, I just started to realize as I talked to people who both worked for the organization and talked to people who we served, that there really was different concepts of what it was we were doing. And so the very first campaign that I created along with the small team there was a campaign called What is Circus? And we literally created different testimonials from different people letting us know what circus was to them. Because to some people, circus is like, doing a handstand while you're riding the L to the train in the morning. And to other people, circus is under a giant big top. And to some people, it's, doing inversions on the beach in the morning. And so what we did was we created all these different examples of what circus is to people and created from there a series of ads that went across trains, both out of home and digital, where we both answered the question in a diverse group of ways of what is circus and invited people to come back and tell us what is circus. And the reason this ended up being so valuable is both because it created a lot of talking and thinking and cohesion within our organization, but then also expanded that conversation to the people we serve. So now they were talking about it with us. And then for the people who don't know anything about us and don't really think much about circus, we also created a real invitation for them to sort of think about it and come in at the most basic level. And it really served us well.
I love that because I think about several organizations we've worked with, and sometimes the messaging is the most important thing. It's you find out that people aren't on the same page. Everybody's talking about it differently, and it really does fracture the message that's being shared. And when I mean, it's part of the summit that we talked about. We always believe that the importance of everybody being on the same page, having the same vision, just elevates an organization so beautifully. And you can get further faster, I believe, when everybody's rowing in the same direction, so to speak. So
absolutely. And we're all serving a mission. And so that mission has to be that mission's got to be that's what every single person in an organization needs to be working towards. Is that mission, which means we need the same vocabulary and we need the same understanding of how that mission is best served. And it's ultimately, the smaller your budget is, the more important that everybody you touch and everyone you work with is an evangelist for what you do. Because that's perhaps the most effective marketing you have on a small budget.
Totally.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really an important part is if your whole organization can't get behind your mission or your concepts or ideas, you're gonna have a hard time getting people who aren't connected to the organization to find any relevance or anything that sticks with it. So I love that, Brittany.
Great point. Dave, I'm going to have you kick us off on the next question. But what common challenges do nonprofits face in branding and marketing, and how can they overcome challenges that of the day with limited budgets?
I mean, I think the biggest challenge in my mind is just understanding this world. I think if we talk about digital marketing in particular, which I think we'll focus a lot on today because that's sort of where these budgets live. These organizations want your ads to be successful. If your ads aren't successful, you're not going to be investing more money with them. And generally we're talking about Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, and Google for the most part. I mean, there's some other stuff, but really those are like the two big pools. And the resources that they have available for you are pretty incredible. Like you can get almost a college level focus on digital marketing just by going through some of these free resources. So I think the way that you can really start to make an impact on on facing some of those challenges is to just learn more, understand what these metrics mean, understand how your investment in some of these services can actually make a difference in what you're doing. And I think, that compared or combined with a good plan that is easy to understand and execute is like a perfect recipe for success in that world.
Dave, to follow up on that, just thinking about the poll results and the fact that, I think half the people that are joining us today, marketing is just one of their responsibilities. So, are those programs time consuming? I mean, what do you think might be a good amount of time that they could devote to this to get meaningful results without it, preventing them
I
from
mean,
doing all of the other?
I think it's always like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Which is, I think it depends on how much you really want to make this an important part of your work. I think there's lots of opportunities to do like 1 or 2 hour sessions. Like folks who are here already, you're spending some time thinking about this stuff. You're here watching a panel of us talking about it, so you're clearly invested in making an impact. So I think you could spend 30 hours, or you could spend just a couple hours, and they have options for everybody. But Google and Meta in general really have some incredible resources. I'm not a huge fan of either of those organizations either. Like they're really successful and they're very good at their job and they help us be good at our job. But like, they're inherently just sort of bad people, right? Right. For like the lack of a better term. So it's hard to say like super invest there, but like they're so effective and they're so good at finding audiences that I think with a small budget you can get so much more impact. And why not take advantage of the stuff they're giving to you for free?
Yeah, knowledge is so important, and observing and watching.
There's some really good news there, just real quickly, which is as this technology is getting better, as it's getting more complicated, as it's getting more sophisticated, the learning curve to understand it is actually getting less. And so as these tools are getting better, our ability to understand them, to learn about them quickly, and to control them easier is getting easier and easier. And so we often think there's this really big learning curve for digital things, but that curve is really flattening because there are tools now that are much more understandable and much more easily explained, and it's good news.
That's great. Amanda,
Yeah, I agree.
what do you think about how nonprofit marketing folks can overcome budget limitations?
This is probably my favorite topic to talk about. I don't know if it's how I grew up and I like a deal, or I like to save money, or if it's just because I've been working with nonprofits my whole career. But I think free and low cost digital tools, I'd say now they're probably more available than ever. And maybe we can send like a list of, some things, or if you want to take some notes. But what has helped me immensely for my work is Canva has been great for designing flyers, graphics, social media posts. And there is a free version. You can also splurge a little bit on the paid version, but it's of a nominal fee. We use Hootsuite a lot for our social media scheduling, which is kind of just like a set it and forget it, or set it for now and we'll deal with it when the posts come. And you could also, if you're worried about budget, you can use each native platform for free, such as Meta Business Suite, X or Twitter, which is kind of a ghost town now, but it's worth mentioning. LinkedIn, a lot of these platforms you can schedule posts, so that way you're not in the weeds, and you can, when we talk about planning, right, make sure you're posting about an event coming up, or a membership campaign of some sort. And following that, kind of like Canva, if maybe you can't afford some of the Adobe products, I've used GIMP, which is a great free tool for like the more in-depth type of editing. Um, for my social media videos, I use an app called CapCut, which is, a few bucks a month. So you can edit right on your phone, and it's a little bit better than editing on a computer screen, since it is for social as it is. And of course, we have Zoom, I think everyone knows Zoom by now. And for my email campaigns, I've gotten a lot of use out of Constant Contact and MailChimp. Um, you can use Calendly for scheduling meetings. Now we have AI tools for content writing and graphic designing, such as ChatGPT and other, Midjourney. And I know that there's some dialogue nowadays about AI, but I think once you know how to use it the correct way and the more ethical way, it has helped me immensely, putting ideas to paper when you have a blank brain and you're like, how do I get this blog started, or how do I get this newsletter started? So those are great tools too. Dave mentioned Meta and LinkedIn, ads, sponsored posts. We have a client right now where they have support group meetings, and we only spend about 25 bucks each month, but it's going out to eyes of the existing followers. But since, again, like I said, we're so inundated in our social media feeds, that $25, I know for me, I follow that page and I'm seeing those support group meetings. And I think without just that $25, maybe I wouldn't be seeing them. And if I'm a part of this organization, with a health, and I have this health issue, I need to be notified about these meetings so I can stay on top of it and speak with my community. But there's so many. There's Microsoft Tech is offering some nonprofit discounts, grants, and technology at a discount. And of course, Google for nonprofits. There's a slew of programs and services available there. So yeah, if anybody needs more information about any of these, feel free to chat with us afterwards, and I can always send a little PDF list of all the discounted services you could use.
I'd love to put that list in our follow-up email. And I think I really have to emphasize, as somebody who was a one-person, organization when I was an ED, I can't underscore the time savings that are available to you through some of these things. Like the scheduling. I mean, Hootsuite is, relatively inexpensive, and the ability to schedule those out, know that that's going to be taken care of. I think you can time chunk, all of your content creation, build it out, have it go. A couple of things you do need to stay very aware. I know there's been a couple of times where, based on what might be happening in the world, you actually have to pull back a post, or maybe it's not quite as relevant in that moment. So some sensitivity is important, but then Calendly is another great tool that, when you can just share somebody a link to your calendar instead of having to go back and forth 10 times on availability. So tools. Absolutely. Murphy,
Not to
anything?
mention, most of those services have like either free options for nonprofits or super hyper discounted. So don't hesitate to ask. Generally, you have to dig a little to find some of those emails, but we've always had really good luck just reaching out and saying, what can you give me for free?
Great. Murphy, anything to add? I know we've got quite a bit of discussion still to have, so I want to
Yeah,
keep moving,
sure.
but I
Well,
want to
just
give you
that.
a chance to comment.
So not all organizations choose to use freelancers, but the credible way to save money is to get things done through a freelancer marketplace. There are a lot of them. I choose to use Fiverr. On there, you will be able to find people who will create for you everything from a postcard to a whole new website in hours for very little money. And you can find people over time who are excellent at it and come to rely on them. And you would really be shocked the kind of creative you can get done quickly by freelancers through freelance marketplaces. And then just quickly on AI, because it's just so much low hanging fruit. I've seen people, even like a email, people spend 20 minutes debating what the subject line of an email should be and going back and forth. And ChatGPT, if you copy and paste the email body into it, it will in a moment, in a second, give you 10 amazing subject lines, and one of them will pop and you'll copy and paste it in. and have saved yourself time. And there are so many versions of that that will improve your work and save you time that are really worth pursuing and free.
I love it. I love it. Murphy, when you're working with some of those outsourcing partners and freelancers, do you find that based on your strategy that, it would seem to me that maybe the clearer guidance you can give when you are bringing somebody onto your team like that. And I know, Dave, sometimes you work with freelancers too. I know. I'm just thinking about, how clear do you need to be with parameters to get the
Very.
most effective product back?
So yes,
Super
so
clear.
I mean, you have to have a really clear understanding of your brand, and you need to have it super well documented. In our case, we have a full online wiki that goes through every little inch of our brand that we need people to know, both from our tone to our colors to our font and examples of a million things, so that when we have a freelancer working for us, we just have a link we point them to. And this is the context in which you need to work. And there's examples of previous things there. If people don't have something like that, you should, regardless of your budget. You need to have a real understanding of what your brand looks like, feels like, sounds like, and it needs to be documented for sure.
Yeah,
Excellent.
great. I totally agree. The more you know, the easier it is to get someone to work with you. And I think that's a great exercise, which is, we're talking about how to save time. If you're going to spend, if you only have an hour to spend on this kind of stuff, is it watching a webinar? Is it doing something else? Maybe it's just collecting the things in one place to help someone else help you is a great way to like look back at what you've done, make sure you have a logo, make sure that logo is available in lots of formats, and when I say formats, I'm talking about like JPEG, PNG, and like a vector file, which is like an EPS, if you're not familiar with that world, that then folks can help you easier. So I think, again, like going back to just being clear and consistent and planned out will save you a lot of energy.
Excellent. So, as we think through this, I mean, I know that so much of this is about digital marketing these days, but not everybody's in the digital space. And so I'd like to kind of broaden this next question up a little bit and just ask what innovative marketing techniques have you implemented to boost your brands? Dave, we'll let you go first this time.
I don't know how innovative any of it is, but people love free stuff. We work with a lot of kids. So I think really inexpensive things like stickers and something that just is engaging and a simple takeaway is always really useful. I mean, it's hard to find like the thing that resonates for both your business and your brand and with somebody else. But I think for us, we always try to find good quality stuff to give away. It's so easy to find junk. Like I don't know how many like stupid water bottles and some of those things that like unless you're like in the hydration business, maybe you should be thinking more about like how can this little giveaway thing connect back to my business? Like things people use all the time are pens, notepads. I think stickers are fun, but they're not really super useful. So I just, again, like if you can draw a line back to why we're giving you this thing that has our information on, is helpful. So we'd like to play in that arena a bit, but and again, we like good quality stuff. Like I want a mug that I like drinking out of when we're selling it in our store. Those types of things. It's just like if it works for you, it'll probably work for other people. So think of yourself as the main audience first. It's a nice selfish way to put your ego right in the middle of your marketing campaigns.
Amanda, anything to add on innovation and tech and marketing?
Yeah, so even though I am pretty much in the digital marketing space 90% of the time, what Dave mentioned is correct. And one of our, I think it also depends on like age range too. For someone like, in their 20s, 30s, early 40s, and still in the working age, maybe a reminder, like a digital calendar reminder for an event or A support group, like I mentioned before, might be the best way to go. But I do know for one of our organizations, like I mentioned, they assist folks with a neurological condition. And those members skew a little bit older. And so for them, what works best is a postcard. We're still, doing like a postcard reminder, like come to our support group that's meeting on this day. And that works too. So it's just kind of knowing your audience and what works for them.
So important to think about the age ranges. We haven't really talked a lot about that, but that's part of that strategy, right? Because you may have a certain audience, and even, right, it might be skewing older now, but you have to be building. You have to think about the future, what comes next. It's all part of the process for sure. So, Murphy, anything to add on innovation?
I think sometimes for organizations that are still pulling at what to do, that the best innovations are really the basics that aren't being done and things that maybe feel innovative that once didn't. And so very direct communication with your constituencies, with your people. And I mean very direct.
Mm.
We create campaigns where we have direct phone calls going out to all of the people either we serve or our funders or our students. And this is literally just people in our community calling people in our community in order to connect with them and learn more about their experience with us. And this type of thing is all just very, very direct. Also, maybe innovative now that wasn't before, is very successful for us is just direct postering and postcards. There's good companies out there right now that you can just send an image to, and they will print the posters for you, and they will put them up wherever you want them put up, or they will distribute postcards for you into the kind of places you want them distributed. And this works differently for different kinds of businesses, but there really are affordable, pretty easy ways to get real information out into the world and in a physical way that's beneficial. And then participating in events, community events, other places where you can be out there, person talking to person, sharing the mission. I know none of it's innovative, but it's not the kind of stuff people are doing as much anymore. And so kind of feels innovative.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, right, when you want to stand out among the clutter, use the phone. I mean, nobody uses the phone anymore for
That's
phone
right.
Right.
calls, right? Like, and yet those conversations, I mean, you can anticipate and think you know what your audience is thinking, but you can gain more insight through a phone call, a real conversation than you can any, technology, I think. I also really like the idea of just being able to forge those relationships and continue really kind of working through it that way too. It does help you rise above the clutter for sure.
Yeah, I love
So,
that suggestion about the street team. I think we use that a lot. And now that they are also printers, that goes a long way. So like you can get super, super detailed. Like I want to go to coffee shops and record stores. And I want it to be in these 5 neighborhoods. And I think that stuff goes a really long way. We use a company called Directions here in Chicago. Real again, they're a small organization, and I highly recommend them. If anyone needs any contacts, feel free to send it through Big Buzz. We'll happily hook you up.
absolutely, absolutely. So again, right, we talked a little bit too about the importance of evaluation and knowing what's working and I think again, when you have small organizations, sometimes that can be one of the things that gets overlooked because everybody's rushing to the next thing. So can you tell us a little bit about what key metrics should nonprofits be tracking to measure their branding and marketing success? And Murphy, I'll start with you this time.
Well, so we're all doing different things in different nonprofits. But to me, things are sales. We're selling something. It might be that we're selling ourselves, but we're generally selling a product or a service or selling the opportunity to fund us. Um, but so to me, it all comes back to very basic sales, and the KPIs for sales are really the traditional sales funnel. And so thinking about who are the largest group of people that you're talking to trying to quantify them in some way, and then narrowing that down based on interest. Who are your leads, to who are the types of people who are most interested, to who are your most likely customers, to who are your choosing customers, to how your real customers, and now to how we're going to retain those people. And even in the nonprofit world, to me, everything still likely breaks down to a basic sales funnel. And so that KPIs to me are ultimately, who's your largest constituency? How many leads do you have? How many people genuinely interested you have? How many of them are you actually able to provide service to? And then how many of those are you able to retain? And understanding that to me is really the most basic part of having KPIs in anything that you're marketing or selling.
Excellent. Key performance
Yeah.
indicators, knowing what to measure is huge. Dave, you were going to say.
And I think knowing what type of campaign you're doing, like we spend a lot of our out of home and focus on just kind of general awareness. So I'm looking at stats like reach because I want to be in front of, and this is mostly on the digital side of things, I want to be in front of people's eyes, but reach isn't like alone sufficient enough to gauge success. It's got to be balanced with some other things like engagement or conversion rates. Like, are people actually engaging and being effective with your campaign as opposed to just reaching it? So if you're looking at Facebook or even Google stuff and you're like, wow, we have incredible reach, like they're getting your message out, but something about your message isn't coming back if you're not seeing sales or clicks or some sort of engagement or conversions backwards. So I think you have to be really careful in that arena to make sure that you're not just relying on one metric all the time. There's got to be one or two or three combined to tell the story about like, is something working? You've got to follow that like funnel down back to sort of your sales channel. Yeah, so I think those kinds of things. And like, email, I think these days it's still open rates. Like deliverability is important, I think, especially as like most people are using Gmail or something like that. They're sending stuff into these kind of different folders, and you might have a really good solid list, but if your open rate is not strong, you're just kind of wasting your time. So again, like if those channels are not working for you, why are you doing them? Right? Continue to like evaluate backwards. Is stuff making sense? Like, are these numbers changing the way we want to? Is it increasing sales or not? And if not, like dump it, do something different. Like you only have a small amount of time. So I think I think that we keep going back to planning and then also the piece like evaluating whether things are working and like not wasting your time on doing stuff because you think you should be. Like there's only so many hours in the day. So be focused on how you're spending your time and your money.
Well, and I would say, Dave, I love what you talked about too on the email marketing. I know one of our clients, we segment their audience because we're more concerned. It's a membership based organization. And right, our goal is definitely that the membership has a much higher open rate than maybe our prospective and our other partners or whatever that might look like. We are really focused. Our mission is about the members. And so we need that
Yeah.
metric to be, we love that it's much higher, significantly higher. It shows that what we're presenting is meaningful to the right audience and helping us to hold on to those folks and they're engaging with the tool. We want to bring others along, but that we segment it out a little bit, just not too much. Again, you could go crazy with it. You don't need to. Just a little tweak can make a big difference. Amanda,
Yeah.
what do you have to add in this arena?
Dave and Melissa kind of took the words out of my mouth. But I just wanted to say, for our clients, I put together a communications report every month. And these communication reports basically do track these metrics of, the emails we're sending out, the campaigns, what the open rates look like, how many emails bounced or was a spam report, which is a good metric to follow. And also as well as social with engagement rates, like your likes, your comments, your shares, your followers, conversion rates, all of that is very important. For me, what I wanted to ask that hasn't already been said is I wouldn't get too in the details of or in the weeds of vanity metrics. And vanity metrics just refers to like, how many followers do we have? Are we, and it's a fine line because I think it's okay to be in a growth mindset when it comes to digital numbers. But I do think that a smaller audience is just fine as long as they're dedicated and actively engaged. I would rather have a small engaged audience versus a huge unengaged audience where you're kind of just screaming to the void, because those are going to be your dedicated members or dedicated audience followers. And so that's important to note too.
So important to do some list reviews, right? I mean, you could just keep mailing to the same people, but if nobody's getting it, like what wasted effort is that? So definitely reviewing those lists, doing updates, follow-ups, especially I think, right? A lot of people have changed their emails, changed jobs. I think post-pandemic, people are moving around. It's important. It's important. We've seen a lot of people lose audience in our clients' worlds because they're not focused on updates, outreach, contact, review. So,
Yeah.
how can nonprofits leverage community engagement, volunteers, and supporters to strengthen their brand and mission? I think this is a huge opportunity, especially for small organizations. But you guys mentioned it earlier, you need evangelists for your brand. How do they do that, guys? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can talk about that a little bit. Murphy talked about it a bit earlier where, you just want people that are out there as promoters for what you're doing. So I think that can be former customers. It can be volunteers. It can be people that used to work there. Like if you are authentic with your product and your people, that stuff naturally shows. So I think at the Old Town School, word of mouth is really critical, but it's also super hard for us to kind of measure. Um, so we just kind of like hope that everyone who has their touch point is getting a great experience and will go back and tell people when they're at a dinner party. I've been thinking about taking guitar. Well, I took a guitar class at Old Town School a while ago and I had a great experience. A detractor will also be just as dangerous as helpful as someone who's a supporter too. So I think making sure that all your interactions are authentic and friendly and right on where you want them to be from top to bottom goes a really long way.
I love that.
The basics of this is asking. And it's what people often don't do, or people are least afraid to do. And so the way that we get volunteers is by genuinely asking people for volunteers. All of our organizations have people that want to be more involved, that desire to have a deeper level involvement, but we don't always know who they are. And so having a need and being very direct with your community, one-on-one, telling people, asking them, not being afraid, to really ask people directly for what you need is really powerful. And it's just always surprises me how many people are just uncomfortable doing that most basic and direct thing, looking someone in the eyes and telling them what you need from them.
I think that's so important. And I think you mentioned it earlier too. You were talking about clarity and a couple of different, questions. And we are so close sometimes to the picture, right? Like we might think we're being obvious in what we're saying, but to your point about being so exact and direct, it matters because we're living it, sleeping it, breathing it every single day. But our audiences aren't. And so the clearer we can be with what we need and how we present that and put that out directly, I think you can have much better success when you have that kind of clarity. So,
I
Amanda?
wanted to add just a note that what came to mind as everyone was speaking is that before we know it, we'll be in the giving season, you know, the end of year campaign. So when we utilize social and we utilize emails, I think what's going to be key is the storytelling and, you know, highlighting the stories of who was helped this year, or volunteer contributions, or member testimonials, whatever that looks like, because our volunteers and our supporters and those that were helped can act as the brand ambassadors. So I think sharing the story, their positive experiences, and just spreading awareness of what the organization has done is going to go leaps and bounds versus just a, hey, donate to us, you know? So I think that's going to be, you know, the key component.
Excellent.
Yeah, Melissa, you have a question coming up that we might not get to about how to stand out in a crowded sector. And I think it ties right into what Amanda was saying, which is if you haven't found like what your organization's unique value is, you're going to struggle at finding like a path to success. So, I mean, I think those really simple key things is like really figuring out what that unique thing is and how you can be super authentic about talking about it when you're coming up with these stories, especially when it's just general fundraising for a nonprofit. I mean, I think people want to invest where they feel like they have like a direct connection and they can make a difference. If you feel like your $10 donation or whatever you're asking for isn't going towards anything that's like meaningful for you, why am I spending my money there, you know? And then I
Right.
think engaging with that stuff as much as possible, which is if you're getting questions on social media and if you're not replying to emails from customers, you know, you're missing some opportunities to kind of be your own evangelist too.
The other thing I would add on that, and then I want to move to our Q&A to address some of the questions that are coming in. And I'm glad you highlighted that, Dave, because I know we're not going to get to everything we had, possible discussions on today. But I do think, when you talk about those evangelists and being able to invite other people in, leverage your boards, leverage your staff. I think when you want to see that engagement build, I think, again, inviting people, and, you want them to do it authentically. I never like to force people to engage per se, but at the same time, right, they can help share out, they can help add color, they can help build the story. So reminding them and inviting them, especially maybe around your more important posts during the year. We do something at Big Buzz we call the Thunderclap. And, when there is our largest fundraiser and it's going live and the announcements popping, we invite all of our board and all of our regional leaders to support that because they can help amplify that message in the moment. So definitely that's another way too to leverage some easy resources by just, again, communicating with your board or your staff that you need that, you want that, and inviting them to do that. So first question, what are the local channels where you feel like you get the biggest bang for your marketing bucks?
Well, it depends on what they mean by channels. I don't know if you're talking about like television channels or kind of like general channels, but I think local targeting on Google and uh, Instagram and Facebook, you can get within like a 10-mile radius of your space, and I think that stuff is invaluable.
Yeah, I was gonna agree. I like Instagram for its video capabilities. I know TikTok can seem a little scary for folks nowadays. It's a younger platform, but I like Instagram for its focus on videos and the design component. For actually reaching your members one-on-one. I love Facebook groups. I think that they're more personal, and there's better notification capabilities that, somebody posted about this, and or the admin of the page put out an announcement. So I think those are the two that I really enjoy. Or if you're a nonprofit or business that's in the professional space, LinkedIn is just key.
Well, and it may also be a little bit hard to answer this question from the standpoint too that it depends on your strategy and who you're trying to reach, because different people are in different places too. But Murphy, anything to add on where you feel like you can get the most feedback, the biggest bang for your marketing bucks?
Well, just specifically in our case, I can tell you exactly what it is, and it's the Google Ad Grant. For those nonprofits that don't have it, Google continues to offer up to $100,000 a year in Google AdWord placements for companies, nonprofit organizations who are able to maintain the account in a useful way. And just as an example, the majority of our camp sales and the majority of our recreational classes for kids are directly attributed to web traffic through that Google ad grant. It costs us nothing. We're able to get it hyper local, and it is a direct, constant cause of traffic to our website. And so if I had to pick one thing that is affordable and powerful, that for us, that's definitely what it is.
I love that. I do think too, again, it comes back to your particular organization, because one of the things it's wonderful to hear your success. We have another client that's in a highly competitive space, and based on the parameters of the Google grant, they can't leverage it to their benefit because the spend is limited and the demand of the industry they're in, it just didn't work. So I love hearing that somebody else had great success with that, because that's a lot of free advertising, and when you can use it for results, that's meaningful. Last question we're going to use to wrap up today as we draw to close on our time. But what's your favorite question to prompt huge response or engagement? And I'm going to assume that's on digital marketing, that folks are really trying to get people to engage. Any advice or recommendations?
I personally love this question, and I do have a bit of a case study, let's say, for this is the group that I mentioned like 3 times today is the organization that helps folks with a neurological condition. And what has done great the last few months is we started creating these polls on social media in our Facebook group or on an Instagram story or just on, you know, all the platforms as a post that they could pick like A, B, C, D, and there are questions like, are your symptoms mild or major? Or what is your financial burden for having this disease? Is it 0 to 5,000, 5 to 10, and so on? And those have just been great for getting folks just creating a space for a conversation. It also helps us as an organization know how to best serve our folks because we know like what they're up against. And because we don't have the disease, so we don't always know what they're going through. So it has been just ideal. And, you know, other questions you could ask that might be helpful for your org, like what's one piece of advice you wish you could give your younger self? Or we have a statistic of X. What do you think the number is? So just anything that really creates a conversation and is engaging and meaningful.
Yeah, I
People
really
love to
love
share
that.
their opinions, totally. So
Yes.
I
Well,
think
and
any opportunity you have, yeah.
And they can be better with those short questions. I mean, we're using that a lot in membership-based organizations too. And when people don't want to do a big, long survey, you can still get at least some immediate response. And that allows for some engagement and follow-up, which again goes to Murphy's recommendation of the outreach and the follow-up and answering questions.
Yeah.
Do you know how to take advantage of your benefits, etc. Other
And finding
thoughts?
something that's relevant with the time, like, during NCAA March Madness time, people do a lot of brackets. People love ranking things, and just, I think also kind of seeing, is there something seasonal that you can focus on too?
Anything to add, Murphy, about response and engagement?
No, other than I think if this goes back to what we were saying before, which is people like most to talk about themselves. And this is how it is, whether we're in conversation in person or whether we are in social media. People like to talk about themselves. And so if we want to engage them, we need to do it in a very direct way that asks them to feel like we are directly interested in them as an individual. And that's the heart of engagement in so many cases.
Yeah. And that embraces that authenticity and that direct connect. It really does make a difference, especially in this space where people are coming because they care about a cause. So you really want to tap into that. Well, I am so excited. Thank you to all of you who joined us today for the Breakfast Club, and a very special thank you to our panelists. I really appreciate the discussion. I think we could have gone on and on and on because it's a very robust topic, but I do think we hit a lot of varying topics and points, and thank you so much for your time today to all of our panelists. Have a wonderful day.